Hello, welcome to the final part of my Pokemon Omicron full game speedrun commentary series. This segment will cover the post game or the end of the post game, including collecting all of the shadow Pokemon and fighting the final fight in the run. So let's get started. First thing I do after I leave the cabinet is I go pick up these big nuggets. So there's 3 big nuggets here, and they each sell for quite a lot of money, which will be very useful because we're going to be buying a lot of very expensive items very shortly. So as I mentioned, it's nighttime now, so this is a perfect time to catch the shadow Pokemon because Dusk Balls give a 3.5 times multiplier on the catch rate. So we have our Dusk Balls already, but we need to actually set up our team for actually catching these shadow Pokemon effectively and consistently. So we're going to go up to this Phoenix Iota is what it's called, and we were only able to get this once we fight the finish the Aroma region and pick up the Crest of Aroma. So here I'm just going to do is we're going to go to the mart, we're going to sell all the items we don't need. This is just to clear up inventory space, make it a little bit easier to scroll through everything. And as you can see, each of the big nuggets sell for 30,000, which is quite immense. So here in the Kingdom Cabinet, we're going to buy 3 PP Ups, 2 Max Elixirs, the Sludge Bomb TM, and roughly 56, 57 Rare Candies. And we can actually buy all these items here. And unfortunately, we can't buy Elixirs earlier in the run, otherwise we would, and use them instead of ethers, and rare candies are quite expensive, so this is why we need all the big nuggets to sell at this point. And then we leave the Phoenix Iota. We're done here, we don't have to come back. And the location where we can fight the guy who has all the shadow Pokemon, which is Mirror B, he's in Vezrin region, so we now have to take the train back to Vezrin region. So this next little bit, we're going to be kind of getting our team ready to catch these shadow Pokemon. We're also going to pick up a couple items we're going to need to finish the post game, and it's just convenient to get those items now. So first I'm going to fly to Superior City. And I'm just going to take out all the Pokemon that I'm going to need for this section of the run right now. So we're going to deposit everyone except our Fly Slave and Rock Climb Slave. And we're going to be withdrawing our Bellsprout that we collected way back at the start of Vezrin region. And we did use them a little bit as fodder in the Vezrin component. So we're actually going to be using the Bellsprout as our main Pokemon for collecting all these shadows. And as I get them set up, I'll explain how that works. See there, I used the Time Caller. So I picked up the Time Caller earlier in the run from the museum in Onega Town. So I use it there, and I collect the Rainbow Wing. It doesn't actually say it, but I collected the Rainbow Wing. And that's an item I'm going to need to get to unlock the final fight. I then went to the IV Changer and changed the special attack of Bellsprout to 31 because we want to make sure Bellsprout has the highest special attack possible. We bought a Poison Barb earlier. We're going to be equipping that on Bellsprout. Poison moves are going to be our main attacking moves for this section of the run. And now we're just going to level up Bellsprout. So Bellsprout's an interesting Pokemon in this game. He has a slightly different stat total and moveset and evolution procedure as a typical Bellsprout would in a regular Pokemon game. So in this game, since Bellsprout was one of the main starters, it was designed to evolve similarly to a typical starter of any other Pokemon game. So he evolves into Weepin' Bell at level 16. And he also will evolve into Victory Bell at level, I believe, 37 or 38. I think it's 38. So this way we don't need a Leaf Stone to evolve him. Weepin' Bell Bellsprout also learns a number of very useful moves. We're going to be teaching a few of these as he levels up. A lot of the first few, like Poison Powder and Acid, aren't super useful. And same thing with Razor Leaf as well. But coming up here, we're going to learn a very valuable move, which is Spore. So Spore is a move which puts Pokemon to sleep, and it has a 100% accuracy. Stun Spore, I think, is 75%. Thunder Wave is around the same. But Spore is 100% accurate. So for most cases, we won't have to worry about it missing, and we can consistently put Pokemon to sleep. We're actually going to be putting Pokemon to sleep, and then depending on whether we will KO them or not, we'll then weaken them a little bit to improve the catch rate. And I'll go over the various strategies as we go through the catching. Victory Bell also will learn Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade will be useful to weaken Pokemon later on, so we're going to teach that. Pretty powerful physical grass type move. And we're going to stop evolving him at level 42, where you learn Sludge Wave. And Sludge Wave is a really useful, very powerful special attack that's poison. And it'll be used primarily to kill the Pokemon that aren't Shadow Pokemon in the party. We're then going to use our 3 PP ups to increase Sludge Wave's PP to 16, and I'll explain a little bit why we do that in a second. We're also going to teach Sludge Bomb. Now, Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave have very similar power, but Sludge Wave is a little more powerful, and we're going to use Sludge Bomb for a certain purpose and Sludge Wave for another purpose as well. So we're going to teach Sludge Bomb there. And finally, since our Bellsprout is dead, since he died in the last Sigil Hall, we're just going to heal our party to full. And now we're ready to go. So you'll see I didn't use all my rare candies. I'm going to need to use the rest of these rare candies later. So Victory Bell is actually going to gain quite a few levels in the lighthouse here. And we're going to be fighting Mirror B. I think it's... I don't know how many times it is. It's a lot. 25 times we're fighting him here. To pick up all the remaining Shadow Pokemon. Now, if we collected any of the extra Shadow Pokemon, like earlier, like Flygon, we would then not catch him here. So here's Porygon again. So we fought Porygon a few times earlier. Porygon's catch rate is 45, but when we put him to sleep, he becomes about 41% to catch at full health, and now at about half health, he's about an 80% catch. These things can wake up. It's kind of RNG dependent whether they do. But they can go put themselves into hyper mode, which can both be a good and bad thing. It can make their catch rate a little bit higher, and or they could kill themselves, and then you would have to reset the fight. So we got Porygon first try, which is really good. So we're using Sludge Wave to take out the Ludicolo's, and we increased our special attack IV to 31 to ensure that as we level up, we continue to kill these Ludicolo's, because Ludicolo's stats are pretty much average, average IVs, I'm sure, throughout. But if we have a low IV, our special attack isn't going to increase as much as it would with a higher IV, and we're less likely to kill these Ludicolo's in one hit with Sludge Wave, the higher level we get. We are going to be picking up quite a few levels here. So these Shadow Pokemon, they all show up in a certain order, and so I can kind of map out what I'm doing for each fight. So sometimes I have to use X items to set up on at the start of the fight. So this Excadrill, for example, can be faster, depending on how fast our Victory Bell is. But here I elect to not use an X speed in order to potentially have him hurt himself with Hyper Mode, because I have to weaken him with Leaf Blade a couple times to get him down. Actually, just once was sufficient there. Never mind. And Excadrill's got a catch rate of 60, which means at about half its health and asleep, he'll be a guaranteed catch. So in he goes. So 2 for 2 so far. If we accidentally one-hit KO these Pokemon, or they kill themselves with Hyper Mode, they would then just return in the next Mirror B fight. If I do KO, I just reset, because then I would have to kill an extra Ludicolo, and it's not helpful to get extra experience. So as you can see, Mirror B disappears, we go down the lighthouse, we go back into the lighthouse, and Mirror B comes back. And then in between each fight I would heal if my health is looking pretty low. And at certain points I'll be using those elixirs as well, because I am going to eventually run out of Sludge Wave PP. And the reason why I use these PP ups on Sludge Wave is to ensure that I'm using elixirs as little as possible. So 16, I think, is the max that PP that Sludge Wave can get using PP ups. So this next one here is Toxicroak. We don't really have any good moves to weaken this guy, so obviously our moves are not very effective against him. He can also be faster. I just realized in this run, I guess the speed on this Victory Bell isn't great, which actually works in our favor because generally I would toss a ball when he's asleep and at full health, which is about a 68% catch. Now his catch rate's going to go up every turn because he's taken a little bit of damage. And we're 3 for 3 so far, so that's really good. So I bought enough Dusk Balls that I, on average, would use 2 per Shadow Pokemon. Some of the Shadows I'm catching are pretty much guaranteed catches. Some of them will take a lot more balls, so on average, it's pretty safe to buy about 60 Dusk Balls. And that would cover some of the Shadow Pokemon that we fight during our play through the Aroma region. So this session of the run can be quite boring. It's pretty much the exact same thing 25 times over and over again. But it was kind of fun to route because you have to kind of look at the catch rates and kind of figure out which balls are useful. I was using fast balls at some point, so those are good for Pokemon with high base speed. But Dusk Balls are it's just easier to buy a lot of Dusk Balls, and the catch rate isn't much worse with a Dusk Ball anyway. And Victory Bell will learn a few moves leveling up. We're not going to teach any of them. None of them are particularly useful. For some reason, he sends out the Shadow Pokemon last in this fight, and this fight only, which is for Politoed. Politoed, we're actually going to use Sludge Bomb to weaken. So I mentioned we use Sludge Wave to kill the Ludicolo's. We also have Sludge Bomb to weaken the certain Shadow Pokemon that won't be weakened by Leaf Blade. So Leaf Blade will one-hit KO this Politoed, whereas Sludge Bomb will take about half its health. And now this Politoed's about 82% to get in. And we get him too, so far so good. The next fight is actually pretty bad, so the next Pokemon that Mirror B is going to have that we catch is a Cryogonal, and Cryogonal has a very low catch rate of 25. What that means is that at full health and asleep, he's about only 22% to get in the ball, which is pretty low. So we have to weaken him a little bit. In addition, he's also faster, and he has a super effective move. Well, it is super effective anyway because it's a shadow move. But he's fast, and he has good special attacks, so you can do a fair bit of damage with his attack. You can set up with an X speed here. And that would ensure that you're faster. But because Sludge Bomb doesn't do a lot of damage, and we want to get him to as low health as possible, I elect to not use an X speed to start this fight. And he just killed me there because he's faster. I didn't think of that. So I just let him hit me and hope that he goes into hyper mode so he does a little more damage. And if he does break out of the first ball, he's more likely to get in each successive turn. So here I actually just use the X speed since apparently my special defense isn't very good, so I don't really want to take too many hits from this guy. This guy is probably the in the top 5 of the hardest shadow catches that I have to get. Just because he's fast, he does a lot of damage, and he's got a pretty low catch rate. But now we're faster with the X speed. We can weaken him a little bit. And we could probably use another Sludge Bomb, but that's running the risk of him potentially. And then we do actually decide to do that here. Now, unfortunately, he woke up. And he didn't go into hyper mode, which is really good. We can put him back to sleep. It's now he's about 67%, a 2/3 chance to get in, which is about as good odds as you can get here. And he still breaks out, which is really unfortunate. So we kind of have to keep repeating here. It is possible that Victory Bell can just die, and in certain cases, Victory Bell might just die, and we might have to just keep chucking balls, and the Pokemon will still be awake rather. So this is ball number 3, I believe. So on our first 4, we used 1 ball each, so we're pretty much right on track with what we want to use so far. This is really unfortunate. And as soon as he gets into hyper mode, we just reset because he would kill himself for sure at that point. Yeah, in the lighthouse, we're going to actually catch some Pokemon after the lighthouse as well. But he's probably the 3rd hardest, or 2nd hardest to catch in the lighthouse. So I mentioned that Mirror B's got some of these Shadow Pokemon. So some of these Shadow Pokemon we fought earlier in the run. So for example, Tim had a Cryogonal, who's the 4th gym leader in Aroma. Some of these Pokemon we have never actually fought at any point in the run yet. And they're on trainers which are optional trainers, and some of these optional trainers are extremely out of the way and not worth fighting as we play through Aroma. So for those trainers in particular, it's worthwhile to visit the Aroma region or to go to the lighthouse and catch them there. So you see in this iteration of this fight, I elect to take a bit of damage by him going into hyper mode to improve the odds. And we got him finally. So I think that only used 2 balls that time. Because since we reset, we don't actually lose the balls that we use before we reset, so that's good. Another reason why we don't just allow the shadow to die and then do the fight all over again without resetting, because we could run out of balls really quickly doing that. So you'll see here that this split is actually called the Rayquaza split. And the next Pokemon we're going to fight is the Rayquaza. Now Rayquaza, before its catch rate was nerfed a bit in Gen 6, its catch rate was 3. I don't know what the odds of that are, of it getting into a ball, but it's less than 1% with a Pokeball at full health. So very, very low. This Rayquaza is also extremely powerful. It is a legendary. It's got really good attack and special attack, and it's got both attack, physical and special attacks. So what we do here is we have to set up a few X items. So I typically set up a couple X defends, an X special defend, and an X speed. He's also pretty fast as well. And in this Rayquaza, we are hopefully going to weaken him twice once we put him to sleep with Sludge Bomb. That'll get him down to as low health as possible. If my Sludge Wave does, or if my Sludge Bomb rather, does more than half the first turn, I won't actually use a second Sludge Bomb. I'll have to just chuck balls and hope that he puts himself into hyper mode, for example. So let's just see what this Sludge Bomb does here. It does a little bit less. Now, unfortunately, he woke up. Put him back to sleep, and repeat. So this guy is probably the most difficult catch of all the shadows to get. What is this wake up instantly garbage? And so he goes into hyper mode, we have to reset. So that's really unfortunate. The main difference with Rayquaza and all the Shadow Pokemon we're catching is we're actually going to use Heavy Balls to catch this guy. Because I think a Heavy Ball just adds a certain number to the catch rate. So a catch rate of, say if you have a catch rate of 45, you get a slight boost to that of, say, I don't know, I think it's 25, 30, increments like that to the catch rate, depending on the weight of the Pokemon you're trying to catch. Now, obviously, with the really high catch rates, that doesn't really make too much of a difference with the Heavy Ball. So I elect to, it's just better to use Dusk Balls in those particular situations. However, since Rayquaza's catch rate is so low, and he is relatively heavy, using a Heavy Ball actually does make a substantial enough difference to the catch rate that it's actually worthwhile to use it. And so I bought 12 Heavy Balls earlier. I usually only end up using about 6 before he either kills me or he kills himself. But I buy a lot of Heavy Balls specifically for the Rayquaza. So if I get this Rayquaza down to about half health and asleep, he's about 12% to get in a Heavy Ball, so very, very low. Here I can't use another Sludge Bomb because his health is too low. He's about 17% if I get him down to really low health. have actually had some pretty good luck using a Dusk Ball on this guy and getting him relatively easily as well, but Heavy Balls are statistically better. So this thing can really waste a lot of time. I once spent 20 minutes trying to catch this guy. It's not fun. This run actually goes relatively well, so that's a bit of a spoiler alert right there. So you see there, Victory Bell died, and but Rayquaza's in hyper mode. So now what we're just gonna do is chuck balls while he's awake, and hope he'll get in at this point. The catch rate is about half of what it is when he's asleep if he's awake. So even at low health, the odds aren't super great, but it's worth it to try chucking a few balls when he's awake, because doing the setup with all the X items at the beginning of the fight is quite time consuming. So I think we get one more crack at this. Maybe two. I'm not sure if he gets in this this iteration of the fight or the next. Yeah, so one more try. So again, typically I throw about 6 balls before he kills himself, and unfortunately he's going to kill himself at the next turn, so I have to reset here. So this split wasn't particularly good compared to my best. My best split ever, I think I got the Rayquaza first attempt and maybe second or third ball, which is really good. So again, we have to go through the setup over and over again. It's really unfortunate we can only get 2 Master Balls in this run, because there are 2 more legendaries with similar catch rates we need to catch later. And we already caught one of them actually, the Keldeo, but there's another one where you have to catch once we're done with the Lighthouse. It is technically possible to get another Master Ball, but it's kind of luck-based. In the secret base, there's a chance that an item ball there will have a Master Ball, but it's very, very low. It's like 1 in 100. So without any form of RNG manipulation, for example, it's really just luck of the draw, and you're better off just trying to catch the Rayquaza in a conventional manner, which is kind of unfortunate. So really seeing some good versatility from Victory Bell. So there we go. Got the Rayquaza first ball. So that's really good. So Victory Bell is really good because he's relatively quick. He's not super fast, but he's faster than some of the other options out there. So for example, Parasect also learns Spore, but is extremely slow. Vileplume is also an option, but Vileplume is also very slow. And the attack on Victory Bell is pretty solid as well. We do need to use a few X speeds here and there to outspeed certain Pokemon, but overall it's pretty good case to use Victory Bell as the main for this section, especially since he's quite a bit different than a traditional Victory Bell would be in a classic Pokemon game. So now we're back to a few more conventional fights where we're going to use Dusk Balls. You can see here that Ludicolo lived, so that Ludicolo just happened to have good IVs or something like that, so it lived. It's not too bad though. You can just finish him off with Leaf Blade. So that's the primary purpose of Leaf Blade, is to not only weaken but also to clean up those Ludicolos that survive. So here's an example where I actually Will YOLO ball effectively when he's asleep. It's not a true YOLO ball. But I have no way of weakening this Chestnut appreciably with any of my moves. I will one-hit KO him with my poison moves. So he's about 41% to get in. His catch rate is 45, so pretty low. We got him first ball, which is really good. So a lot of the catch rates I'm going for when I'm chucking balls are around 40% or better. Most of them are well above 50%. So for example, this next fight here, we're actually going to be fighting all three final evolution of the Gen 6 starters in these fights. So we got Chestnut already. This fight we'll be fighting Delphox. Delphox, this fight I set up an X speed because Delphox is faster. And all I need to do is just weaken him with a Sludge Bomb. And his catch rate goes up quite substantially because we can actually use Sludge Bomb here. But Sludge Bomb can also do a lot of damage, and we don't want him to be in hyper mode. So the X speed is to ensure that he doesn't do it as much damage to himself. So he's at about half health. Unfortunately, he woke up and went into hyper mode, so that's going to improve the catch rate a little bit. We're going to put him back to sleep because we can. He does take a little more damage while he's asleep. But now he's got a pretty good chance to get in the ball, close to 100%, I believe. In he goes. So you can see there, if you saw, this is my last Sludge Wave, so I've fought 8 Mirror Bees so far. 2 Ludicolo's each, so that's 16 Sludge Waves. And so after this fight, I'll be healing to full, just because I'm going to be in my menu anyway, and I'll be using one of the max elixirs that I picked up at that mart earlier. So I don't need to go back and take a center. I can just do all my healing here in the lighthouse. I don't have to worry about running back and forth there. And so the next Pokemon we're going to fight is Greninja, which is the water type final stage evolution in Gen 6 of the starter Pokemon. And pretty much the exact same fight as with Delphox. We're going to set up an X speed to make sure we're faster, because Greninja is pretty fast. And we're going to use Sludge Bomb to weaken him. Now, because our speed was incredibly awful, this Greninja actually was still faster even after an X speed. Never really seen that before. But luckily, Sludge Bomb doesn't do a terribly large amount of damage. In fact, luckily, it was very lucky not to kill there. And now this Greninja is pretty much a guaranteed catch. That's 9 shadows so far. So we still have to catch 16 more in the lighthouse. So we're about just over 2/3 of the way there. And if you thought Mirror B's theme was pretty cool, it's actually, at this point, probably very annoying. The next Pokemon that we're going to fight is Shaman. And Shaman actually has the same catch rate as Chestnut, Delphox, and Greninja. It's got a catch rate of 45. Which is quite interesting considering it's a legendary. Or maybe it's a mythical, I'm not sure. But he's going to be a little bit difficult to catch because we can't weaken him. We don't have any moves that can weaken him substantially. In addition, he's also faster, so here again, I just choose not to use an X speed in hopes that he puts himself into hyper mode. And we got that, so that's really good. So now we're just going to put him to sleep and start throwing balls. So right now he's about 42, 43% to get in. So within 2 balls, I should have this guy. So he broke out the first one. That's to be expected. It's also interesting to note that while the Pokemon is, I didn't mention this earlier, but while the Pokemon's asleep, Hyper Mode still does damage. So that's good to keep in mind. That's really unlucky. Second ball breakout. So with each turn, he's actually becoming more likely to get in. And we got him finally. But our Dusk Balls are pretty good at this point. We've gotten pretty lucky on some of the other fights, so haven't wasted too many so far. Yeah, the only one that really gave us problems was the Cryogonal so far. That one got him pretty quick eventually, but so the order of the Pokemon we fight here is not really, doesn't really make too much sense relative to the story. We're not fighting them in the exact order that we see them during the story, so that's kind of an interesting aspect of this, I guess. And for whatever reason, some of the Pokemon that we fight during the story don't show up until later. Well, actually, all the ones that we fought end up here, but some of the optionals that we don't fight end up here, while some of the optionals we have to actually go out and fight them later, which is kind of interesting. Here's Riolu. Riolu is a pretty easy catch. We don't really have anything good to weaken him with. So we have to just chuck a ball. This is about 68%. Got him first try, so that's good. Interestingly, if I fail to kill the first Ludicolo when he uses Growl and lowers my attack, I can actually weaken the Riolu with Leaf Blade and he won't die. And that'll make his catch rate 100%, but that's extremely unlikely to happen. Because our special attack is so good, we're highly favorable to one-hit all the Ludicolo that we see. So here's Mawile. This fight will be Mawile. Pretty similar catch rate to Chestnut, Shaman, those Pokemon. Because Mawile is part Steel, he won't take any damage from Poison type moves, so we have to actually use Leaf Blade to weaken him. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually not putting him to sleep. I'm actually using Leaf Blade first, hoping that he goes into Hyper Mode. Which he does. So normally I could put him to sleep and then weaken him twice with Leaf Blade, but here I elect to not use Spore and use only one Leaf Blade, and he actually ends up doing enough damage to himself that he becomes quite favorable to get in. So he's well over 80% to get in here. So Golem is interesting. We can't really weaken him. It's possible that he could have Sturdy. But it's better off, you're better off just throwing a ball here. He's about 41% to get in, so he's got a catch rate of 45. Got him first ball, which is really good. The other options are to maybe just hit him with Sludge Bomb, weaken him a little bit that way, not put him to sleep right away, and stall a little bit. And hope he does a bit of damage to himself. But he's got a pretty decent chance to get in at full health and asleep, so that's generally the better play. Golem's actually possible to catch during the run as well, depending on how the setup goes on that one Gravel fight, but generally don't really bother with that. So this fight here, we're going to be fighting against Rapidash. Rapidash is fast, and so we use an X speed. Rapidash has got a bit higher of a catch rate. He's got a catch rate of 60, so we just need to get him down to half health, and he'll be a assured catch. Luckily this time I'm still faster. So now he's in hyper mode, which is kind of unfortunate because he woke up. And I think at this point you just throw a ball, because if I were to put him to sleep, he would just die as soon as I use Spore. So he's about 80% to get in here. So that's really good. Not too much of a time loss there. So Rapidash, if I were to catch him on one of the Suzerain fights earlier, so Rapidash is one of the Pokemon I set up on, and if he ends up hurting himself enough that I can catch, it's worth catching, then I'll catch him there, and he won't actually show up here. So instead of Rapidash, it'll just be the trainer, the Pokemon that I'm fighting now, that would show up. There's another example of Ludicolo not dying. It is also possible that Ludicolo can be faster, but generally Victory Bell is faster. And as you can see, Mirror B's Pokemon all are the same level as my highest level Pokemon, so this is the reason why I deposit Blaziken. Otherwise I'd be fighting a bunch of level 90 Pokemon, which is obviously not ideal. Reuniclus here is about 92% or so to get in at half health and asleep, so he's highly likely. Got him. Oh, there, that Ludicolo is faster. Ludicolo can be quite annoying if he is faster, and also if we need to set up on him, because he has Tri-Attack, and Tri-Attack is not only a lot of text boxes, but it also can status, which wastes a lot of time. So the next Pokemon that we normally would fight would be Flygon, and if you recall, in Aroma region, we were actually able to catch Flygon off of Suzerain, because we got him down to low health. And then yeah, so that's, we don't fight him here, so that saves a bit of time. Getting him there is actually faster, but it's much more risky. And the same can be said about a lot of these Shadow Pokemon. We could catch them during the run, it just would be much riskier. So instead we're going to get the easiest catch in the Lighthouse. So this guy has a Growlithe. And Growlithe's catch rate is 190. And what that means is, if he's asleep at all, he's guaranteed catch. If he's awake and full health, he's about 86% to get in. So sometimes I choose to use Spore and put him to sleep to guarantee the catch, or I just go for the YOLO Ball. And got him that time. Obviously the YOLO Ball is a bit faster, but there is still a slim chance he can break out. Another faster Ludicolo. Really annoying. I think there I used Sludge Bomb by accident instead of Sludge Wave, so I think I still have one Sludge Wave left. Oh, never mind. I still use the Max Elixir. So typically I would use the Max Elixir after Flygon, but since Flygon's already caught, I use it after the Growlithe fight. So we're almost there. We have 5 more Pokemon to catch in the Lighthouse. This one's also really easy. So this guy's got, he's got a Wailmer. And Wailmer's catch rate is 125. And so what that means is that full health and awake, he's about 50-50 to get in. But when he's asleep, he's guaranteed. So we got a couple easy ones here. If only they were all this easy. So 4 more to go after this one. So the next Pokemon we're fighting is actually really interesting. This is the only situation where the Pokemon's ability will have an effect on the fight. So the next one we're fighting is a Dodrio. Dodrio has got a fairly lowish catch rate. His catch rate's about 45, which is pretty much average for what we're fighting in the Lighthouse. He's also a bit faster, so we're going to have to use an X speed here. In addition, he has a 50-50 chance of having the ability Early Bird, and what that means is effectively when you put a Pokemon to sleep, the game rolls the dice essentially as to how many turns you're going to be asleep. And what Early Bird does, it just halves the number of turns that it rolls. So you can be asleep up to 6 turns, I believe, or maybe it's 5, I'm not sure. But effectively, Dodrio can only be asleep for a maximum of 3 turns, and statistically, he's very likely to wake up instantly, which means putting him to sleep right away is not practical at all. So what I typically do on this guy is I don't put him to sleep turn 1. I use Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb does nearly all of his health. I hope he doesn't kill me with Hyper Mode. Then I put him to sleep. Because if I put him to sleep first and then I weaken him, he's very likely to wake up instantly, or after the second turn. Whereas putting him to sleep and then chucking a ball means that he's a little bit less likely to wake up. And now he's a guaranteed catch. So I struggled a lot with that fight, figuring out how to get him efficiently, and this is the best way to do that fight. Now if he goes into Hyper Mode, he's instantly dead, because I did enough damage with Sludge Bomb that he would kill himself. So that fight is a bit risky. But overall, that Dodrio catch was really good. Probably the best I've ever had on that specific Pokemon. Actually, I lied. That's the first of 2 Pokemon where the ability matters. There's another one which has an ability. So this one we're fighting next is Absol. Absol has a really low catch rate, so he's actually probably the 3rd hardest catch here. So he has a catch rate of 30. He can also be faster, and so what I'm doing here is I could set up an X speed. I choose not to, in the hopes that he puts himself again into Hyper Mode to improve his catch rate. So this means his catch rate is relatively low, because the catch rate of 30 means... And as you can see, Mirror Bee can switch Ludicolos around too, randomly, if you don't kill the first one. That's kind of weird. This fight was really bizarre. Didn't get the range on both. But Absol is about... at about half health and asleep, he's about 54% to get in. At low health, he's about 81. So, statistically not the best odds to get this guy. But here I use Spore, put him to sleep, and then Sludge Bomb. That did a decent amount of damage. So he's about 70-ish, 75%-ish to get in, which is pretty good. But he can break out and cause a lot of trouble. And we got him first ball. That's really good. It's actually really, really good catch. Alright, just 2 more in the lighthouse to go. So this next one is pretty much standard fare for these Pokemon. And this guy's got a Pidgeot. Pidgeot is 45 catch rate, so all we need to do is put him to sleep and weaken him with Sludge Bomb and then chuck a ball. Now I think on this fight I set up an X speed. I wasn't actually paying attention, but he is faster, so using an X speed is beneficial here. I must have used an X speed. He's pretty likely to be faster. So Sludge Bomb actually does a lot of damage here, so he's almost guaranteed to get in. Alright, 1 left. The next, last Pokemon we catch in the lighthouse is a Pokemon whose ability can make a huge difference. This Pokemon is Sigilif. Sigilif has a 50-50 chance to have the ability Wonder Skin, and what Wonder Skin does is it halves the accuracy of status-changing moves, which means that Spore all of a sudden will become 50% accurate. I think it's 50. Yes, it is. Which means that Spore can miss, which is obviously quite annoying. We pick Spore specifically because it can't miss. So actually the setup here is quite interesting. I use an X accuracy as well as an X speed, because Sigilif is also faster. But the X accuracy doesn't make the Pokemon or a Spore effectively 100% accurate. It actually only improves it slightly, so we can still miss Spore even after using an X accuracy. There's also a 50-50 chance that he has his other ability, but we don't really play around that. We just go for the X accuracy because it's consistent. And now he's about 85%ish to get in or so, so pretty likely. Alright, so really, really good lighthouse so far, that we just did. Got trolled a little bit on Rayquaza and Cryogonal, but otherwise everything went really solid. I guess Shaman also was a bit annoying as well. But we're doing really well, so generally I like to go into the next section with about 12 Dusk Balls or more, and I think we have more than double that right now, so that's really good. And so that split actually went really well. I saved about a minute on my best, so really good catches, a lot of first balls. Really, really good. So now I'm going to fly to Blackfist City, and I would actually go to the department store and buy more Dusk Balls if I was short, but since I'm not, I will go take the train back to Aroma region. So we're going to go back to Aroma to get the rest of the Shadow Pokemon we need. So some of these Pokemon, the optional trainers, their pokes end up on Mirror B in the lighthouse, but some of them don't, and the ones that don't, we actually have to go and fight them. So it's a little bit of a different fight than with Mirror B. First, we're going to fly to Polaris Town, and we're going to go into the center and take out a couple Pokemon that we're going to need for the rest of the run. We're also going to deposit the Shadow Pokemon that we've collected, well, 2 of them that is. And we're going to be withdrawing our Hawlucha, which we used way back in the Vezran region. So Hawlucha is level 120, really powerful attacker. He's really good for these fights, and he'll be used in the final battle. We also take Unknown out because we're going to need Unknown's Tesseract move, or HM, for maybe towards the end of this section. We're going to need to use Tesseract a few times. Firstly, we're actually going to go head out in a Mount Press and candy our Victory Bell up to the maximum level. And so I buy enough candies that I run out of candies just before he learns another move. At least I think I did that. I'm not sure. I might have actually screwed this up, and he's still going to learn the move. But he's going to hit pretty high level here. Yeah, level 81. So at level 82, he learns Frenzy Plant, I believe, so that just saves time by not candying him there. The reason why we candy Victory Bell is we're actually now going to be fighting Pokemon that are going to be substantially high level, because some of these Shadow Pokemon that we need to clean up and catch are actually going to be relatively high level compared to Victory Bell, so candying Victory Bell to this point gives him enough good stats that he can tank attacks from these Pokemon as well as be faster than them. I'm also going to heal up Hawlucha as well. I actually probably should have... I actually was supposed to take the center, but that's fine. I think I just take the center later. Because we need a certain number of moves on our Hawlucha before the final battle, and we're going to need to take a center at some point, or use an elixir, and since I don't have any elixirs left, it just makes more sense to take a center. But that's fine. So we're actually going to head up all the way to the top of the last Mount Epsilon section here. So this is where we fought Brendan. And at the top here, we're actually going to fight a new trainer, who's moderately tough, but not too bad overall. So we have to dodge a bunch of these trainers again. It's a little bit annoying, but not a huge deal. So we're almost there. This guy here, who just blocked us and saw us, I'm actually resetting. I could actually fight this guy, because he does have a Shadow Pokemon. However, I'm not set up to fight him just yet because I need to have my battle style to switch, or shift rather, and I'm just not equipped for that, so I just select to do him later. So now we're fighting May, who's one of the protagonists or whatever of Gen 3. So we fought Brendan earlier, and now we're fighting May. May is quite a bit easier than Brendan. We can actually set up a lot easier on the Breloom. Breloom's not as dangerous, even though he is a relatively high level. We obviously need to kill a bunch of Pokemon in this fight, and Hawlucha is the best Pokemon for this because he's high level, got really good stats. It's really, really good. We need to set up 2 Swords Dances here, and as you can see, Breloom is spamming Spore, which is extremely annoying. Alright, he finally stopped using Spore, now we can set up our Swords Dances. So we have to set up 2 of them. I think we got the first one off, and then he started spamming Spore. And then we have to set up a second one as well. And this allows us to one-hit everything. And because Hawlucha's pretty beastly, he can just one-hit everything now. So there's Breloom. The reason why we're fighting May is because she has Shadow Groudon, and Groudon is very similar to Hawlucha. It's got a catch rate of 3, and it doesn't make sense to try to weaken this thing and then chuck balls at it because it's in the middle of a really quite annoying battle. The Mirror Bee battles are a little more consistent and safe. So here's where I use one of my Master Balls, or the second rather of the Master Balls. Just catch the Groudon right away. In he goes. And then we just clean up the rest of these scrubs with Hawlucha. Another reason to use Hawlucha is because he's already level 120. He's not going to gain experience and pick up any more levels, and that just saves text. I'm not sure if Aggron can have Sturdy if he's a Mega. I've never seen it, so I don't know for sure. But luckily May doesn't jump off the cliff, she just runs away crying, so that's good, I guess. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to set our options to shift. We're going to be Obviously cleaning up a lot of these trainers with Hawlucha, but on certain Pokemon, we're going to switch over to Victory Bell and use Spore and weaken them with Victory Bell. Or in certain cases, we'll weaken them with Hawlucha as well. We're going to put the Go Goggles on, just saves a lot of time and damage. And we're going to fight this guy here. So generally we'll switch to Victory Bell. For this fight, we're actually not going to switch to Victory Bell because Victory Bell doesn't have any good moves to weaken this Magnezone, which is the Shadow Pokemon we need to catch. So we're actually going to use Hawlucha. We're going to use Rock Slide. Rock Slide doesn't do a lot of damage to this guy. It does about a quarter of his health. And what we're really hoping is that he goes into Hyper Mode relatively quickly, and he goes in instantly, which is good. Because now his catch rate's going to get better as we weaken him. Magnezone has a really low catch rate. He's got a catch rate of 30. So by the time I actually get around to catching this guy, he'll be about 55%-ish to get in, which isn't great. And if we hadn't candied Victory Bell would have probably just straight up died to Magnezone, so that's not really good. So now that he's asleep, we can start throwing balls and hope for the best. And we got him. First ball, that's really good. So now we're going to switch back to Hawlucha, because obviously Victory Bell is not really equipped to deal with a Galvantula. So Magnezone's probably in the top 5 of the annoying shadow catches. There's certainly 5 that stand out, and that Magnezone is one of them, so that went really well. The Absol also went extremely well, and obviously the Rayquaza and the Cryogonal did not. So now, unfortunately, if you remember in Aroma Region, we got teleported off the mountain. Unfortunately, that's not an option here. We actually have to run all the way to the bottom. We can't use an escape rope. It obviously doesn't take us to the very beginning of the dungeon, and we can't fly off the mountain either. So this is a little bit slow. And so the next Shadow Pokemon we're going to go for is a Scizor. And this is probably, I would say, top 3 of the annoying catches. It obviously has a very low catch rate. Its catch rate is 25, so at low health and asleep, he's only 2 and 3 to get in, which is pretty low. In addition, we don't really have any good moves to weaken this thing with, either with Hawlucha or with Victory Bell, so what we actually have to do is stall him out and just use potions, throw Pokeballs at him, whatever we need to do to get him to go into hyper mode. And then from there we would switch to Victory Bell and put him to sleep. So this is a little bit of an RNG fight. It's very comes down to luck as to what happens. Typically, I wouldn't even heal. I don't know if I take... Do I take the center here? I can't remember. No, I don't. Okay. That's good, because usually my first turn is I just use a potion on Hawlucha, and that gives him a chance to attack. I'm actually going to heal Hawlucha, which is kind of interesting. I normally don't do that. But I guess here my first turn will be I'll just start chucking balls right away. I've got a lot of balls to spare. It can't hurt to throw a Dusk Ball at full health. So at full health, he's only about 11% to get in. So that's, I think, what my play is going to be here. I think also this Fortress can live and do damage, so I could heal as well. That's another option. Double Edge there is really good. That saves a turn. So I keep Hawlucha in there, because Hawlucha can tank damage from Scizor a lot better than Victory Bell can. And what I'm actually going to do is toss a ball. A little hesitation. If I catch him, great. If I don't, I really hope he's going to put himself into hyper mode, and there's an instant breakout. And now he's in hyper mode, so that's really good. So that was quick. Usually I have to wait a long time for him to go into hyper mode, and that's not ideal. So now what I do is I switch into Hawlucha, or rather Victory Bell. But then I got criticaled, which is obviously not great. So I think what I end up doing is healing. I'm not sure though. Oh no, I put him to sleep right away. So now the odds of getting him are about 33%, which still isn't that good. And actually I elect to heal here. I could have just healed earlier, but what I'm hoping is he stays asleep, which is good. And now we start chucking balls again. So I typically get about 4 or 5 cracks at this guy once he's in hyper mode, because he does a fair bit of damage to himself. And so here I actually keep chucking balls, because if I used Spore and put him to sleep, he would eventually kill himself before I could even throw a ball. So odds are still pretty low, and in fact they're much lower now that he's awake. And so this is the last chance I get. I think I do reset here, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe not. Oh no, I got him. So that's about 33% to get in, and that's pretty fast. That's the fastest I've ever gotten the Caesar, so pretty happy with that. Hawlucha comes in and just cleans up. And so if you recall, well, if you look at my PP, I'm actually really short on brick breaks right now. Now, luckily on the next fight, I don't need to use many brick breaks, so I actually can go in here and fight the next trainer without having to go back and take the center. So this guy is not too far away. He's pretty close by. What we're going to do is, oh, I didn't do that. Victory Bell is still taking a lot of damage, so I didn't even heal him. Or maybe I did, I can't remember. But this guy has Gigalith. Gigalith's got a pretty low catch rate of 45. But Gigalith always has Sturdy, so what we're doing is we're playing on one hope that he doesn't wake up after I use Leaf Blade, because Leaf Blade almost always gets him down to 1 health. Or close to it. And if he woke up right now, hit me, and put himself into hyper mode, he would die, and I have to reset the fight. So if he stays asleep after I use Spore and weaken him, he's now a guaranteed catch. So these trainers I could fight as I go through Aroma region, but I don't really have a good way of statusing them, and status is really key in this shadow catching. It effectively, using Spore doubles the catch odds, which is really good. So here, I had bought escape ropes way back before I went into the final Sigil Hall. So I used one there, and now I can fly. I'm going to fly to Canis Town. And here I'm actually going to take the center. Normally I wouldn't even take a center. Or I would have taken it earlier. So it's a little bit slower to do the center now than when the plan was to take it, which was when I was in the center already to take out Hawlucha, but that's okay. So a short trek into here, and we're going to fight this guy here. So the next Pokemon that we're going to have to catch is Medicham. Medicham's got a fairly good catch rate of 90, which means he's about 82% to get in at full health and asleep. So I always use Spore and then start throwing balls. And more often than not, this guy gets in. I'm not sure. This one might break out. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. But that's okay. We have 22 Dusk Balls left. So we actually only have 4 Pokemon left to catch, so we're very unlikely to run out. So now we have an average of 7 balls left for 3 Pokemon, so that's pretty good odds. We're now going to use our second escape rope. Get out of here. The next trainer's in a pretty interesting location, actually. So we're actually going to fly to Kingdom City. And then, oh, that's not good. Actually, no, I made a mistake. It's the one after this one. That's an interesting location. So it's this girl here. This girl's got a Breloom as her shadow Pokemon, and it's the exact same situation as with Medicham. We just put it to sleep and start throwing balls. Pretty straightforward. That Sock can have Sturdy, which wastes time, but didn't get it there, so that's good. Alright, good catch there. So just 2 left. So the next trainer is in a pretty interesting location. So we're actually going to have to backtrack through Centauri Town, which is one of the towns we went to on our way to Kingdom City. Interestingly, you can't fly to Centauri Town, otherwise it would be faster to do that. So what I actually have to do is continue backtracking through this route that I'm on now. And then go through the city and go to the route there. And I have to deal with this annoying biker dude. And of course he hits me. What a clown. And I got through. So yeah, I have to go back through the Kingdom Customs, and then I have to go back through Centauri Town. Luckily, the trainer's right at the beginning of the next route, so that's really good. But it would be much faster just to fly to that town and then run in and fight her. Now, if I were to accidentally KO any of these Pokemon that I'm fighting right now on these trainers, I would actually have to go back to the lighthouse and fight Mirror B again to catch these Pokemon, which would waste time. I do actually have to go back to the lighthouse anyway to pick up an item there, but it's obviously much faster to get them first time around. Rock Slide still missing. Always fun when that happens. So, next Pokemon we're going to catch is a Donphan. Donphan's got a catch rate of 60. And we pretty much make him a guaranteed catch by weakening him with Leaf Blade. So that does a fair bit of damage, but doesn't critical, so that's good. And now he's pretty much guaranteed to get in. So I got a bit of bad luck on this split, actually, compared to my best. I can see my split's a little slower. You see I set my battle options to set again, so actually that's the last fight we're going to see Victory Bell. So Victory Bell was very useful for about an hour of this run, which is really good. Because the next trainer is, we don't need to use Victory Bell at all to put the Pokemon to sleep, because the Pokemon has got a pretty high catch rate, and that's a Voltorb. So here, this guy's actually got pretty low-level team as well. So he's got a Voltorb with a 190 catch rate, which means same thing as the Growlithe. He's about 86% to get in at full health and awake, and he's obviously guaranteed to get in when asleep. And so what I just do here is chuck balls at him while he's awake. Can't hurt to do it. I have about 20 balls or so, just under 20 balls. Yeah, 19. So I should be able to get him. In fact, I will eventually be able to get him, because he would eventually put himself to a low enough health that he'd be guaranteed catch. Luckily, it didn't come down to that. Alright, that's the second last fight in the run. So once all of these Shadow Pokemon are collected, an item will become available to us, and we have to go back to Vezran region to get it. And this will only show up once you collect all of the Shadow Pokemon, so you can't get this without it. So we're going to be making a quick pit stop back into Vezran region, and we're actually going to go back to Aroma very shortly after that. So we're going to go back to the lighthouse, which we were at. We spent quite a lot of time there. At this point, if we accidentally KO'd any of the Pokemon in Aroma region, we would actually come back here and fight Mirror Bee a few more times and catch those remainder. But now there's actually an item ball here, which is the Tower Photograph. So this photograph actually doesn't do anything specifically. We actually have to get it looked at by a certain NPC. And this is where we need Unknown. So we actually need Unknown twice for its Tesseract ability. But now we fly to our hometown, which is just a pile of rubble. We go to this specific corner, which is actually where the player's house was way back when. We use Tesseract, and lo and behold, we're now in a town. Talk to this guy here, and he's offering to look at photographs. And there's a few other photographs that are present in the game, which are kind of optional side quests, which you can get him to look at. And what he does is he looks at this photograph, and he tells you exactly where to go, I guess, or where that photograph was taken. And it's that ruined tower that we passed through earlier, near that desert, in that desert area. So we use Tesseract and take the train one last time back to Aroma region. So a little bit of map movement in this split, so it's not a lot of fights. Obviously just the one, so it's a little bit of a calm before the storm type situation here. Fly off to Andromeda. Couple one last menu, heal to full, got lots of healing items, nothing to worry about there, and use our last repel. And make our way through the desert. At this point, it's pretty hard to hit any extra trainers, but do the save anyway. And now that we have the Rainbow Wing and the Tower Photograph all inspected, we can actually touch these inscriptions here, and we're taken to a secret room. And here's the final fight. And we can only fight this guy if we have the Rainbow Wing. So I think we can actually get in here before we have the Rainbow Wing, but we can't fight this guy. And once again, cue the best battle theme in the game. So this guy is Pokemon Trainer Zeta. And I think if you play Pokemon Zeta, he's called Omicron. I'm not 100% sure. So he's got a few Shadow Pokemon. They're not guaranteed to catch to beat the game. They don't really do any good. You can catch them, but it's not really worth it. We have to set up 3 sword stances here to one-hit everything in this fight. And luckily this Gardevoir only has Shadow moves, and Shadow Rush is actually a physical attack, and Gardevoir is an awful physical attacker, so setting up here is pretty free. Obviously getting Hyper Mode from Gardevoir wastes time because that's extra text to worry about, but no big deal. And now we just sweep the whole fight. So a really anticlimactic end to an extremely long run of nearly 10 hours. But just simple setup 3 times and let Hawlucha go to work. Let's crank up the volume a little bit. So even with the Mega Evolution of the Latios, Hawlucha is just way too beastly and just one-hits him. So time will stop at the end of this fight. There's a little cutscene I like to just play because it kind of completes the storyline, but it's not, I don't count it as part of the run. It's just mashing. And lastly, we get to see Ho-Oh. Now, fortunately, we don't need to use Rock Slide on any of these Pokemon, because Rock Slide can miss, so that'd be really awful. And time. That is Pokemon Omicron. So just a quick cutscene you can do here. There's no real story after this point. We just go back in time and watch a little cutscene here. So if you remember, Gold is actually Zeta when he was younger. Along comes Zeta. And Gold kind of has Ho as his friend, partner. And what Zeta does effectively corrupts Ho-Oh, and this kind of starts the whole Shadow thing, and I guess starts Gold down his dark journey to being an evil bad guy. So a little bit of a backstory here. And so Zeta catches Ho-Oh, and we obviously fight the Ho-Oh later. This is a really interesting story, final storyline bit. But yeah, off he goes. And you can see I have an in-game time of 9 hours, which is well off the 942, so that comes down to all the resets that I had earlier in the run. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So conceivably, this run can get 9 hours-ish RTA. However, that would require insane luck, because there's a lot of places you can die, and the run you just reset. So that's it for Pokemon Omicron. I'm probably not going to go back and improve this run in its entirety at any point soon. I might do the various segments of it and try to improve those. Major changes that I would make would probably be to catch some of these extra Shadow Pokemon as I make my way through the game to avoid fighting Mirror Beast so many times. But I feel like this is a pretty good first full route of the game. I haven't seen anything else out there, and I think it's pretty solid. Obviously, there's a lot to improve. It's nowhere near optimized, and if anyone wants to take a crack at it, be my guest, and I'd be interested to see what further changes people can make. So yeah, that's it for this series. Hope you enjoyed. It was quite long, and yeah, cheers.